Hi guys, hope all is well. I'm going to do a quick video about what I'm looking for the markets for this week. So I'm going to be looking at AU, USD, Euro Pound, Gold, and GBPUSD. So dollar, we've been, as you can see, on this bullish run. Every time I do a video, it's basically the same thing, high time frame on the dollar. We have actually broken this high standpoint. So on a weekly, we have that. We use this high, then lower low, to then lower high. So in all reality, this does mean expected pullbacks. I do want to see a pullback into potentially 50% of this zone. So we do have a fair bit until we actually could come back down here. But what I think we could see high time frame is potentially dig up into here, come back up to then break. Potentially, that's what we could do. Or we could kind of just break, come back, test, and then actually have that overall sell. But this is on the weekly. This could take quite a while. On the daily, though, we can delete this move. So on the daily, you can see, well, actually, let's just go back to the weekly. You can actually see we have been maintaining this bullish structure. We have that high, 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 low, high, 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 low, high, high. So now we are coming back to create a high low to then continue higher. We could see that, and you can see we have this last down move, which is that demand, which caused this breaker structure here. So even though zones didn't get, or they got invalidated here, it's because this was the main one which price is really kind of gravitating and going towards. So now we have had that test. Doesn't mean we are actually going to continue. If we do drop it down on the lower time frame just a little bit, we do have some inducement here, just liquidity, and we do have this wick, which I think could get taken out. You see, we have this wick, this gets taken out. We have this wick, this gets taken out, and it basically kind of just happens all over. So even though we have had this, that does not mean price is actually going to start doing what it wants to do. We could have had a kind of a strong sell-off from this point. We could have this correction, even potentially react from this zone and continue, or unless we break a little bit higher, come and trade back down one more time. I do think we could get some sort of dollar pullbacks. Even just going on to daily, you can see that this is looking like a nice supply zone for us. If we go on a daily as well, personally, I don't really trade EMAs that much, but they can help if you, it's just like a second confluence. So you can see all the way down here, we had this EMA cross, and then we started this big bullish run, and this was back in 21st of June. So from 21st of June until now, we are just finally having these EMAs cross. So you can see this blue one's at the bottom. This is the 50. So you can see our 50 moving average is now actually broken, and we are and would be potentially looking for sells off this zone. So if we're looking at the structure, we have this low, we came up, this high came down and created this low. Yes, this was the supply zone that caused it, but you can see this is still this sell to buy movement. So seeing this is quite nice. I do want to see if we can get some daily pullbacks into here. We do have a nice supply zone, which I'm looking for, and you can see from my 50% from using this low from here, price did or has actually created supply within the 50%, so that is nice to see. You can see again here when we did actually have this break, price came down and we did come back up into these fib levels one more time. So could we see that? We do have some equal highs, which is telling me that price is probably going to look to push higher at some point. Just because there is liquidity doesn't mean it's going to be taken. Now liquidity can be stayed or stored for ages and ages. So we are going to just have to wait and see about that. But I would have liked to have seen a little bit of a raid. That would have been a bit more of confirmation. But for time being, we're just going to be going off structure and looking at the most recent supply and demand zone. So this is our most recent zone daily time frame we're still working on. So you always want to be having like such a bias high time frame, because the high time frames are always going to trump what the low time frames are doing. So this is our daily zone, waiting for price to pull back and to see what sort of reactions we're going to get, if we're going to continue higher or if we're actually going to continue lower. And if I say low, I don't mean lower, but I do potentially think we could actually get this wick taken out one more time. And this was quite a big weekly zone. So we could see price even pull back into the 50%. We do have some imbalance and things down here. So there is potential room for price to push back lower. But going into this week, I do want to wait if we are actually going to confirm and break this. If we do, I'm going to be looking at the pullbacks. If we do get a bit of a run on some of these lows, or if we're actually going to start pushing up higher. What I do think could maybe be an idea is if looking at this 5 minute for a little while, and Euro USD has the same 5 minute, which I was looking for. So price had obviously come into this weekly zone, and you can see really nice strong sell-off. This is your sell to buy movement, and price is still left in imbalance with a potential place of mitigation within this zone. So we even could see price run short, and then we come higher. And then as soon as we do actually give a confirmed break of this high, this should give us more of confidence that we could go higher. So that's what I'm looking at for the dollar. XAUUSD, you can see how much this correlates with GBP already. This means across the board, I'm looking for that run to break lower, pullbacks, trade into something, and continue back into our major zones. And you can see if you were trading Euro, Pound USD, Gold, AU, you can see how these look so similar. I mean, let me go to just even, they look just so similar, it's crazy. So going back from here, dollar, I'm looking for a run to then actually break higher. Going on to AUDUSD, really nice trades from this week. I had a really nice short opportunity from here. I did actually close out when I was in around here, so there was made 60 pips on that move. Let's show you the risk to reward. My targets are actually lower, but personally I don't like holding trades over the weekend just because of gaps and things. I know they can happen. So my overall target for this trade was in fact down here, and I do think we could get that, but I do want to see if we can confirm this low. I did have a feeling we were going to react off something in here, and we did actually have a reaction. I also had an entry off of this imbalance here. Stops were at the same level. That was 30%. And this one was only a 1 to 2. So I mean, there was about like around 4% gain. I mean, they're not amazing risk rewards, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I have my targets down here way lower. So this is around a 1 to 8, and this is a 1 to 6. So there's a potential 1 to 14 within this zone. But like I said, over the weekend, don't really like having trades open too much. And considering looking at how price closed, not much massively happened after I took it out anyway. So after I took it out this candle here, price then dropped a bit lower, and I was like, okay, cool, let's see if this breaks. It didn't, came back up, and now you can see we've stalled. What I do want to see is a potential run back up higher. You can see we have this buy to sell movement dropping it down on the 45 minutes and the 30-minute time frame. This is the zone that we are looking for. There was a really nice distribution in here. This is a distribution within itself. It's nothing more than a manipulation of the highs and a breaker structure to the downside. I literally say this all the time. So valid shorts from this zone, 22 pips, bring this down short. The only thing which I am looking for is I do want to see this broken, because in the grand scheme of things, we are still bullish, but the fact that we've really kind of broken momentum is giving me higher possible thought that we could actually come a little bit shorter. And you can see we actually had this wick up here, which actually never got taken. These are basically liquidity wicks. We can see here, liquidity wick. This got taken out. There's going to be more, but basically these liquidity wicks, they're targets for price and the banks to actually go in and trade. So whenever I do see these, the only time that I'm looking for these wicks are exactly the same situation, which is here. You have that wick, and then you can see price kind of does something in and around here. And to think, if price is not doing much and it's kind of stalling, there's going to be so many people buying here with their stops above this wick. So they let people have an opportunity to win a little, make a bit of money, and then they'll manipulate it. Doesn't always happen completely straight away, but you can see at a time it does actually happen. And if you can use it to your advantage, then it's just even better for you and your trading. So I would like to see shorts. I could also see potential longs. First of all, going on down to a lower time frame, I would want to see if we can have the exact same thing which is happening here. If we could get a redistribution from this level and kind of just a continuation, basically exactly what happened here. What is going to be a bit more of a confirmation for me is if we actually finally do break that low around 66500, that's going to be a bit more of a confirmation for me, just because we're going to be invalidating a lot of the demand which is resting down here, and basic structure comes into play if we are following scales and mitigations. You can see this whole mitigation trail started all the way back in here, but the one I was focusing on, we have this 5-minute move, and everything within here has been tested in the field. On the 1 minute, so you can see these highs got taken, and here this move traded into this move. Then we have this last 5-minute move was the one that kind of gave us that shift in momentum within this section. Price came up again, started going into the Asian session. You can see 1:15 Asian session started. We have this wick. Price comes down. We correctively move back up, test back into supply, taking liquidity, and continuing to break structures lower. So you can see from the Asian liquidity that was taken and the breakthrough structure going into London, we had that newly supply zone that was created, looking for price to actually trade back up into this zone and see if we can actually get continuations. This is what we got. We had this break structure, price come down, we correctively moved back up, distributed, took liquidity, took Asian liquidity with this high, and then we actually continued back lower. So we have a supply zone, a demand zone even, with resting liquidity, waiting for price if we can kind of get some sort of manipulation to then actually trade back higher. What is going to be quite nice for me to see is if price doesn't take any liquidity and we kind of just chill and price is coming back up and we move quite correctively, this is going to be giving me more of an idea that price is going to potentially want to run this, because there's going to be no sweep, and I do quite like to see a sweep before potential moves play out. And you can see there was a lot of just like correction lows in here, and price just died through it. So 30-minute, this is still going to be what I'm looking for, taking price all the way back down into our daily zone. Why are we looking for this daily zone? Because higher time frame, I've just noticed I just did this breakdown and didn't even look at the daily time frame, but it's fine now. I was looking at the daily time frame. So daily time frame, you can see we actually came so close to this daily zone, daily supply zone test. Whoops. Test, looking for that test, but we have not actually got that yet. But you can see we've had a real shift of momentum. We've actually validated a lot of supply, which was created within this zone. This supply is now turned into demand. This demand is in fact here, or we could in fact have this as a demand zone, because this was the one which kind of initiated this push to come and run out this high. But this was the one that actually caused not a break of structure, because you can see we have our low, high, 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 low, high, high, looking at high, low potentially. But this was the one that actually gave us this shift of momentum at this zone, which we had been in since September. So this is definitely looking like a really, really nice zone to be looking to take potential buys, but definitely to be looking into potential shorts. There is no reason why we can't be looking at shorts into these zones. It's quite a big zone to be looking for, around 200, 390, 400. So there's quite a lot of pip range movements that we could get in here. I don't think it's going to be that simple. Unfortunately, it never is. I think it'd be hard to believe that price is going to break, pull back, test this super clean and come back down. Like we always hope it does, but sometimes it never actually works out that way. So where the price is actually going to do a little bit more and actually maybe come up, even if we maybe run this high and dig back into this order, and then we actually start having that sell off, and then we get that rollover. Because I think what could potentially happen is sometimes price doesn't really give you an opportunity to do or like get in anywhere. Sometimes, as you guys know, like price can just roll. So we could actually just open and roll, like we could. But I definitely do think if we do have something deeper, or if we do start trading back into this zone and creating more liquidity in the form of highs, I do think we could actually get that run and test off of this demand zone. So that is what I'm looking for AU continuation shorts. But I do want to see if we can get this low just broken, so we can get that midweek pullback and continue. What we could see is Monday, Tuesday come down, come into Wednesday, we get that retracement, and then Thursday, Friday, then we have that short. That's just a prediction. We don't know. So that is what I'm looking for AU. US 30, if I'm going to be really honest, nothing that clean. Weekly and daily, we're in a bearish movement. On the weekly, we came close to a weekly zone in here. We didn't actually test it though. Here. And this was really nice in our 50% supply zone, demand zone even, which is now in discounted prices. We just missed, which is really frustrating, but that is fine. It does happen. But just because it hasn't been tested doesn't mean it still actually can't get tested. So we are bearish, and price can come basically all the way to this top. And as long as we don't break above it, we can still technically be bearish. One thing I am looking at though is price did trade and fill this daily move, but I think we could maybe run out this high and then go for shorts, because if I'm looking for everything across the XAUUSD to drop, that means USD correlates negatively with the dollar. What have I got for dollar then? So far we're bullish. We do have zones which I would like to see get filled in here. We do have lower weekly targets which we could get. But what I'm looking for at the moment is potentially we are in some sort of wyckoff at the moment. This is our previous daily high. So in all reality, price could actually take this high, because if we look, there wasn't really a sweep of anything. It just rolled. And this is telling me there's going to be a lot of liquidity resting within these zones. I mean, these are mitigations. You can see we have a mitigation here and things, but I would have liked to have seen one more run to then come down and actually really sweep everything before, because this to me isn't, I probably personally, I wouldn't trade this for shorts. I'd probably be looking for the longs, and you can see nothing really there was nothing to really come back up. I mean, price did actually come in and fill this or test something in here. Nothing really. We do have this gap, which we are actually filling now. This never really tested anything. So what I think we could do, I think we could actually potentially run this high. we go in on an hourly, excuse me, we have that PSY, that buying climax, we have that secondary test. We have that UT, which is just a basic sweep of liquidity. I'm potentially looking at this as a sign of weakness. I know we could, in all reality, just have an impulse correction, impulse again. We could do that, and the Wyckoff is never confirmed until all of the schematics actually play out. But in the grand scheme of things, you don't really need to know all of these things. I say this all the time. You don't really need to know what the PSY, like your preliminary supply buying climax, secondary test, UTAD, like you don't really need to know what these are, as long as you can kind of understand what's happening. So at the moment, I'm seeing highs that are being run and breaks of structure lower. That does not mean we can't actually break and go higher. But what I would like to see is, even if price does maybe break out of this zone a little bit, if we on the high time frame could just wick this daily zone, that means we could potentially get back into something and continue the shorts. This is just a potential possible idea of what I think could maybe happen. Obviously, whether that is or not, that's going to be a different story. Again, what's going to be a big confirmation for us is if we do potentially push higher, if we have a break of the structure, maybe potentially look for a pullback if we get one. If not, then I think we could actually just fill out this imbalance and run all of this liquidity in here. We do have some zones equally which have not been taken. Again, we have these wicks which could get taken, wick taken. So we do have this wick which actually could get taken. A lot of liquidity resting in here. This is just before the news. Really good pump up. So now, are we actually going to continue higher, or are we actually going to break lower? One thing that is nice to see is we do have this supply zone, demand zone. I hate to use this term. It's not support and resistance. It kind of is. It's support and resistance. Support and resistance is nothing more than just basically things like this, where price in the market is actually testing and filling and like creating orders, and you can look at this as support and resistance zone, but this is nothing more than just an area of supply and demand in the market where price has actually broken, filled, tested, and within these zones you will see supply and demand zones actually do line up. You can see we had a test supply and demand in here. This is our supply zone. Again, price came in, we tested it, we broke higher, we came back down. Now we are actually slowly breaking below this again, but that does not mean price is ready to confirm. Now we have actually invalidated this. I'm sure there would have been a lot of people buying under this because this was a straight fill into our daily zone. This could now actually continue, but I do think in all reality we could actually get a higher time frame distribution to actually have that continuation shorts. So that is what I'm looking at for US30. Euro pound on the weekly, we discussed this last time. We're in this big distribution phase. Price had actually came in, swept a lot of the liquidity in here, but we are breaking structures a little bit higher. We have a massive trail of mitigation within this zone, a really nice test of demand. I do want to see if we can get that sell to buy and maybe come up into something within this wick and maybe see if we can complete something. I feel like a lot of it is already like filled and complete. So I don't really think there's going to be too much within here. You can see we had a really nice sweep, big news event, and then price actually started to break lower and shift momentum. So now we could see this short back into this weekly zone. I think we could do one of a few things. Price, in fact, did come up to an hourly zone, but I was looking for price to come into the 50%, which is this 30-minute zone. The risk to reward for me was just a little bit better. Didn't hit it, missed it. It's fine. That is what that is. We missed it by 6 pips. So that's not that far. It happens. Is what it is. Price rolled. I had another order on this 30-minute move right off of this hourly, because you can see I was looking for potential buys off here. We broke looking for the invalidation of this demand, which is this supply in here. We came close, we just missed. It's a shame. Price actually came down, would have hit actually our first target, but we could have a massive run of this liquidity in here. What I am looking for is on the daily, there's this imbalance from this low to this low. There is an imbalance, and price can come to the 50% of these, so mapped out 50% of that imbalance, and you can see this imbalance lines up 15-minute, yeah, with this 15-minute inefficiency and sell to buy move, which is in here. Really nice. So I think we could come off the open, or I think we could probably come off just this wick imbalance fill on that 15 at the 50%. We could do that. And that means we could trade a little bit lower, because you can see we're in this corrective move at the moment, which means price could actually give us a continuation a little bit higher, unless we do just roll over and take out these lows. But I think we could actually potentially come down and actually have that run maybe one more time higher, to then either complete things in here, or if we're gonna just run deep a little bit higher, and actually start coming back down into here. And I overall do want to see euro pound going short into 8,500. That is our cycle level here. 8,500, really nice major half point within the market. So that is definitely going to be a level that I shall be looking for and eyeing up. But at this point, we do have this daily zone as well in here. And I do know price could come down to then actually go up to then go down. We could get that and have a run of everything in here. That makes sense. But I am going to be going for the most recent demand zone, which was created. This is the most recent one. So if we do actually start breaking lower, then I'm going to reanalyze, because we have a lot of liquidity and lows in here, which is definitely going to get ran. So I don't want to be buying off these zones in here, if in all reality this demand didn't really do anything that crazy. I mean, we have this trend within here, which price did actually break above, but it's still, even though we had the shift here weekly, it's valid because we're looking for this short move. That's what I'm looking for personally. I'm waiting for price to come back down and continue, because remember, we broke out of here. We broke this high. This is our high, low, high. Now we've created a high, and price is moving correctively down. We're going to be looking for that high, low, most recent demand zone that was created, to then actually potentially either push higher or come back to then come a bit lower. But we will see. But at the moment, euro pound, I am going to be looking for buys from this zone. If we break lower, we're probably going to sweep this. That's fine. There's going to be other opportunities. That is what that is. And I'm going to potentially be looking for potential sells off this 30 minutes still, because it's still unmitigated, and our 12-hour within this zone. So first one, 1 to 11, 1 to 7, 1 to 12, and 1 to 8. So that is what I'm looking for on euro pound. Gold is yeah, let's talk about gold. Again, you can see supply and demand zones created all within this market. Prices come up, we tested, we filled, we broke structures, became lower. We did now in fact break and invalidate supply. These are all, like I said, XXX with these all basically looking like each other. We do have lows on gold, which I actually do think could potentially be run, maybe even coming down to 1,600. That's a bold move and a bold call, but that could be run. What happened? Yes, obviously, price did, we pushed away, and this liquidity could be sat there for ages, but we have 3 lows, and then price pushed lower. We have 3 lows, and then price is kind of pushing over. And you can kind of see in all like grand scheme of things, on a weekly, we create these lows, this is basically exactly what's happening here. I'm sorry, let's just check this out. We have three lows, one, two, three lows. You have three lows, one, two, three lows. We have this short move here. We create that third low and then we pumped higher. Here, we have these three moves. Just before we create that third one, we had this pump here, came down, created the third one, price broke higher. We filled and tested that most recent high, which was in here, and then we broke lower. Now, you can see exactly the same thing happen in lower time frame. This can act as this move here because this was our break. This is our break, but in reality, price was just testing and filling something higher, which was this weekly. Again, price is filling and testing something, which is this weekly high. So this is potentially looking quite similar, and patterns happen. Well, this isn't a pattern, but history repeats itself, you know. So this is definitely going to be something which we could see. We have not completed our accumulation here. I did see a test of this daily zone here. We could dig deeper. I do want to see if price can come a little bit lower. There is, in fact, a mitigation trail that happened, and I'm a little bit frustrated that I didn't get in on this, but it was with a lot of news, and gold news just don't know if you've ever tried to do it, but it'd be a bit fun sometimes. This so check out again. What did I tell you before? Whenever I see a wick like this, and then you have liquidity resting beneath it with that gives people an opportunity to trade, this is probably going to be a target. So create this wick. People are selling, we're selling, we're selling, we're selling, generating so much liquidity within here. We have that big run, swept the liquidity that was resting above this high, filled higher time frame demand to the tested high time frame. Everything that I'm showing you is just happening on a 1 minute. This is how like detailed you can get with it, and just completely follow the whole trail all the way back down. So you can see this was technically valid. It was, and then price just rolled. Going on the daily, price has already filled this low and tested this kind of buy to sell. Once price came in and filled and tested this buy to sell, let's break it down. Price coming here, we did actually roll from here. I could potentially see this getting run, but for the time being, we are actually seeing some mitigations. You can see going into the Asian session, price broke low. We came back, we filled, we tested this low. This is our overall buy to sell movement. Prices come in, we filled, we tested. We had this high going into London. We literally just wicked this high, and this high did in fact trade into this supply within here. We had already had one test in here, but you can see once price actually really confirmed that break, that's when you got the other test. Whenever I see tests like this, like a supply and demand zone can be tested more than once. So I don't think it just has to be tested once and then that's it. Price can actually do it quite a few times. Same for this example. You can see price actually manipulated this. Wait, sorry, price did manipulate. Price, yeah, we did. Sorry, we had a lower time frame distribution within this zone. You can see this would have been on a 1 minute or a bit lower. Price coming down, we created more liquidity in here. We came back up. We tested the first supply zone. Price then give us that confirmed breaker structure, generating liquidity. We tested the supply, which caused the break of structure to then come back down. What can we see? We have a wick. Price is going to look back down to come lower. Again, with the news, you can see we have these wicks, they get taken out. So going into this coming week, what am I looking for? obviously we've spoken about price coming lower again. The last time price crossed their EMAs was back in May. And this is the first time we're actually seeing them cross again. When we get across, I do like to see if we can get a test or if price can come back into them at least one more time. So potential shorts going into longs, or if price is going to potentially want to come deeper or even deeper into here, or we could in fact just die off. But I do think there is potentials for one more run if we're looking at AU, potentially looking for longs from these zones. Same with dollar, looking for potential longs, well, potential shorts even, sorry, to then go put other pairs to correlate negatively. So we are at a point now where I think we could start having that role. There was a opportunity last Friday of a 30-minute within this, where was it? Yeah, within this zone. You can see price actually started to break lower. So I didn't actually trade this. I was watching it just to see what it was doing. There was this opportunity, and then we actually officially came down and broke structure. But from here, you can see price. Then we came back, we filled, we tested, then we continued lower. But what did I say before about zones? Again, tested one more than once. We could actually get that test of this zone. What I could see is, if we're looking at the structure, this is our low, lower high, lower low. This, in fact, this candle was in fact the big supply which caused this break so far. So this is our zone. You can see prices actually filled and tested. This is our 30-minute zone that we're looking for. There is actually a 5-minute zone in here, which I am looking for. But I want to see potential shorts from the open of this again. And this is lining up nicely with the 50% of this 30-minute zone anyway. What could happen? Another alternative, price could come up and we could run this high, and there is a 5-minute zone in here. Which price actually could test. I have seen this happen before, but I want to be looking for potential moves off here or this last 30-minute move again. Again, we did test once, but that does not mean we can't come up and test it again. So I am looking for shorts on gold, unless price wanted to have one more run and kind of fill this daily zone again to then actually go lower. But what I do think is, I think this is just going to be acting as liquidity for the future in trades. So that is gold. GBPUSD, exactly the same as the dollar. You can see we're just waiting for these zones to actually get filled and tested. Shorts, what are we going to do maybe on GBPUSD? Well, let's go for a daily first. Daily, same as gold, same as AU, same as everything against the dollar, pretty much, not everything. We have not crossed these EMAs since we started this trend back in March. From March, it's been bearish, and this is the first time within quite a long standpoint that prices actually kind of had a shift over the 50. So if we can see if we can get some little bit of upside movement. We've validated a lot of supply, broken some structures. So now it's really going to be asking for, are we actually going to see that pullbacks to then actually have that continuation? One thing again, which is what I'm looking for, we have this liquidity wick within here. I took the 50% of this whole zone. You can see we tested it once. Now I do want to see, again, if we're going to have one more run, similar to US 30, have a run to then go lower. AU, have a run to then go lower. Gold, have a run to then go lower. We could maybe have that run, push a little bit higher to then actually come lower. And I think If price does come down into here, I do want to see if there's going to be any reaction for breaks. If price did roll over, that would be nice to have a lot of these targets, knowing that we could actually go long from a few points in this market. If we go for, yeah, so 4 hour looking at the structure, we have high, high, low, high, 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 low, high, high. And now looking for that high, low, push higher. You can see within here, there's been a lot of liquidity that was resting and price actually just traded through it. So we could run to actually then just trade through it, which does make sense. But again, you can see within this range, price came into the 50%. Where was it within here? What was the demand within the premium pricing or discounted pricing? This is our discounted demand. This was our discounted demand from our smaller breaker structure within here that happened. This was our run. Price has just continued. So just because price is bullish at the moment does not mean we can't have that shift and change in momentum, because higher time frame in all reality we should be expecting, no, well, not that we should be expecting, but for following structure, low, 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 high, low, 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 high. This is kind of what we're looking for. Price, as you can see, can actually come back and trade all the way back down to where the move actually originally started. So looking at any of these two levels is going to be super valid. First zone I'm going to be looking for is for price to kind of come in deeper within this zone, kind of a bit similar to US30. Come into this zone, you can see this is an area of supply and demand within the market. All of this is lining up. So this is definitely going to be my first zone, like I was saying. GU, this is definitely going to be the first zone kind of which I'm looking for. Let me get rid of that. The first zone that I'm looking for. If we do actually break it down, you can see this is our breaker structure. This is our high, this is our low, this is our high. Wait for price to actually pull back down into some premium, some discounted, sorry, to then actually push higher. We go lower time frame, we have this kind of whole range within here. And again, you can see if we pull back a fib, this is our low, this is our low, this is our high, this is our 50%. You can see we had demand within discounted prices. We continued and then we pushed higher. Same as what I want to see on the 4 hour. This is our range, this is our impulse, and then we push higher. Even this isn't the correct way of using structure. I don't think it is. I personally wouldn't trade like this. But if we're actually looking at it in the discounted prices, this is still going to be valid because it's still in discounted prices. But you need to be looking at the structure from this standpoint. It's not, this is wrong if you're using this leg within here, because overall high time frame, the actual structure is actually this. These are all just intermediate moves to create higher time frame pushes. So that is what I'm looking for this week. If you guys got any questions, please let me know. Feel free to fire away and I will help you as much as I can. All right, guys. Bye.